The GovX show is supported by Forrester, helping government organisations perform at their best. Visit forrester.com to learn more.
So, Glenn, welcome back to the GovX show, repeat guest. And I think we're going to have some fun today because we've got a really interesting topic to drill into, but welcome back.
Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me back. And yeah, I'm only the second person I think who's able to say, well, thanks for having me back. So
Lord Francis Maud was the other repeat guest, so you're in great company there. And you behaved yourself first time out as well, so we thought we'd let you come back. Threw a few hand grenades into the public sector, which is good. We want to challenge people out of their sort of conventions, so I think we might be able to do a bit the same today. So before we drill into something that we've set you a little bit of homework to do before the conversation, and we want to explore this idea of what are those golden rules for data-driven services? What are the things that you need to have in place and the things you need to understand to really make a success of these data-driven projects and services, which everybody wants, but not everybody's delivering successfully. So you got a lot of experience working with different organizations around this stuff. So we're gonna try and get the nuggets of gold that you've culled from them along the way. But before we do, tell us a bit about you. Tell us a bit about your role with MadeTech and kind of how you're working with the public sector right now.
No worries. Well, I'm Glen Ocskó. I'm the head of local government here at MadeTech. Having spent about a decade working inside local government, I got this really strange love for the sector. I get taken a mickey internally when I keep saying it's where the rubber hits the road in terms of public services, because other than health, which only affects people during like times of extreme need, all the things that affect our lives are done at a local government level. You can set the strategy at national, but when it actually comes down to delivering on it, it's local government all the way. It's also one of the most unloved parts of the entire public sector. So I love talking about it and being part of it and trying to help it do good things. And that's what we do at MadeTech. Our mission is to use technology to improve the lives of everyone, basically. And that's what we want to do with local government. We're working with councils up and down the country, big and small, and taking all of our central government experience, all of our health experience and defence and all that, and thinking, how can we also apply this in a local government setting? And we're really proud to be doing some really good things and working with some amazing people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that and some of the examples as we go through. So, yeah, we've talked about data in many guises in the public sector, and there's lots of it, right? That's not a surprise. But we're getting better at collecting it, understanding it, processing it, and really looking for meaningful outcomes as opposed to just going, well, we'll keep it for a rainy day and eventually we might work out what to do with it. So I want to understand a bit about what are those foundations that you really need to have in order to be good at this stuff. So there's a panel session that you're going to be talking with us next month at the Government Transformation Show, Local Government Transformation Show, around data-driven services. Mm-hmm. The clue there being that there's an outcome, there's a service that's powered by these insights. So we want to make use of it as opposed to just having it. But if you don't do it right from the get-go, you're probably going to go astray somewhere along the line. So we asked you for your golden rules. And we're going to run down these now. I think you came up with about 8, so you might throw another one in the mix as we go, but we'll keep it at 8 for now and see where we get to. So let's jump into this, because I'm really curious to find out what you think of these absolute fundamentals. So throw us number 1. What do you got on your list?
Well, firstly, I'm really pleased at the title of that session, Data-Driven Services. It's about using data to drive action. Rule number 1 is exactly around driving services. It's always have a purpose for your data. It sounds like a really obvious thing, but so much data is out there. And I remember back in the days of Eric Pickles, the old DCLG, I think it was back in the day.
Whatever it was called, many guises ago. Yeah,
a few iterations ago.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, we'll just throw all the data out there, and we'll have an army of armchair auditors who will make amazing things happen. No matter what data was thrown out there, it was, what's the point of it? It's just out there and it's data. With data, it has to be, what are we going to do with it? It's no good having it. How are we going to use it? What data have we got already? What data do we need? And how can we bridge those two gaps to make things happen? Because if you haven't got a point to your data, well, so what? What is the point of it? So it allows you to take that Occam's razor. Do we need this? Yes, keep it. Do something with it. If we don't, get rid. So yeah, rule number one, always have a purpose for your data.
I like it. I think, as we said up top, there's a bunch of stuff out there, and if you don't know what you're collecting it for, maybe that's not the right thing to be doing. So I like that as a kickoff. So Karen, then number two, what's next? What's next for the golden rules?
Number two is make your data interoperable. Share nicely. There's so much data out there that's locked away in proprietary systems. We've been working with some London boroughs where the platforms that they use, they make a point of locking things away, not because they're worried about data security and cybersecurity and that sort of thing. They just, the harder it is to unlock it, the harder it is to get off their platforms. You can understand it, but that doesn't excuse it. If we don't have data that's able to be moved easily between systems and platforms and into data lakes and out into different through warehousing, actually, it's not good enough because that data just gets hidden away. It's no use having a set of Sunday best crockery just stuck in a cupboard that no one's ever going to use. Why would we do the same with data? So rule number two, make sure your data is interoperable.
That's interesting. And you could almost throw into that, it's probably a clumsy phrase, but make your mindset interoperable, right? I mean, you might have the technical capacity to do it, but if you still have that mistrust or fear or hesitancy, you're not going to take advantage of the technical opportunities.
Oh, the tech is always the easiest bit. And I say that as someone who doesn't know how to write a line of code, but the tech is the easy bit because there are so many solutions out there and these solutions are improving all the time. The difficult part is the culture, it is the mindset and the people. And data is going to enable us to unlock some of that potential and show value. So it really is just the more we can share, the more we can build upon, the more we can layer on things and build in a way which allows you to build these building blocks of data and views of people and services and so on, the more we can actually do things with it.
Yeah. Do you get a sense of this? We're getting better in terms of the culture piece. I mean, there are examples of central government agencies collaborating, obviously through the pandemic, sharing insights, sharing data, and then even local authorities as well, collaborating on shared services and this sort of stuff. So is it improving?
Improving, yeah. But one of my key things, I'm always happy, but never satisfied. I'm happy that we are making some progress, but it's nowhere near quick enough. We saw at the start of the pandemic, in terms of the infrastructure and tech, we saw 6 years of development happening in 6 months. That pace obviously was breakneck and we couldn't maintain quite that, but I worry that we're slowing down too much, that we're kind of just going back to, well, we can get back to the way things were. Life is settling down again. It's not. Why are we missing that opportunity to actually do things differently, to fundamentally rethink things? There are a lot of councils we're working with where they are starting to say, well, the starting point is the most difficult part. Once we've started, actually, the more we can go into it, the better. And they're starting to really see that kind of compound interest of data. But if we don't start, if other organizations are not starting on those journeys and really doing things fundamentally different, then it's going to take a long time to get back up to speed.
Yeah, that pendulum that swung so far in one direction, if you let it, it'll swing back and we'll be back where we started. And, what we've been through has been horrific in many ways, but there are some things that we do want to build on and capitalize on. And that mindset of being more collaborative through necessity, but now through choice is a big one that we want to keep hold of, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so covered that one off nicely. So what's next on your list? Number 3. Rule
number 3, data standards exist. Stop reinventing them. And if they don't exist, then actually find some and be consistent. Data standards allow not just you as an organization to operate with your data and use it, but it allows other suppliers and other partners and so on to understand that data much more easily and much more quickly. Yeah, there's going to be a bit of mapping that has to go on, but if there is a standard to be used, use it, be consistent about it, and insist that everyone internally, and insist on suppliers meeting those standards, because they're there for a reason. What it allows is much more quick setting up of data, and much more quick understanding of it, and so on. Whereas if all you're doing is using so many different data standards and different ways of doing things and so on, it doesn't allow you to quickly and easily and seamlessly slot things together. You spend so much time understanding the data and trying to rework it so it does fit together. You lose all momentum. So yeah, standards, they exist, use them.
Why are we not good at it? Is it just a natural function of people come and go? We start new projects. We don't apply the same rules. Why do they proliferate so much?
I think one of it, and I've got to admit, and this is even predates my time in local government, is everyone agrees everyone should use standards, but everyone thinks they should use the standards they're using. So if everyone does that, then everyone's going to keep using different standards, and it just doesn't allow any progress. At some point, you've got to say, yeah, we believe these were good, but let's be honest, these ones are either just as good and or better. So for the good of the organization, let's combine them. Let's actually sign up to those and use those. People are just so myopic when it comes to progress that they want to just do everything themselves. Lots of other very clever people have done that work already. So build on that. Yeah,
let's spend our time doing the real value add stuff rather than doing that, repeating that legwork and retreading that ground again. Okay, so next up, what have you got for me next in terms of number 4?
Data rule number 4 is a little bit of a personal bugbear of mine. If a data set isn't truly unique, don't call it that. We've been doing a lot of experience of working sort of housing and planning and so on. And was speaking to someone the other day about UPRNs, unique property reference numbers, to find out which building is which. And I said, well, can we have access to UPRN list? He said, well, which one? Isn't the clue in the U? Part? And what I'm saying here is so many different data sets are similar or overlapping, and they all claim to be the single version of the truth, but they're not. So you still need this unique part of the unique setup. So with buildings in particular, it's a simple thing. It doesn't matter if the fire brigade calls it the hotel, if someone else calls it 3 to 15 Smith Street and someone else calls it 15 Smith Street. That might be unique to their organizations, but when we're talking about bringing data together, you still need one way of understanding that each one of those is this unique property. And the same goes for everything. If you've got these unique reference numbers for individuals, for services, for data points, just understand that there's probably other ones out there. And unless you're using those data standards and so on, you don't know a way of making them interoperable. You're going to draw them together in one place. That's the unique part of it. So just be unique or don't.
I like it. Okay, so number 5, what have you got for us?
Number 5 is, if you can't make your data easy to understand, it will never become information. And there's a subtle distinction between data and information. Data is facts. Information is actually how we're going to use that to inform something. And this is where the whole data-led decision making, the drive to improve services, that's the only way of making it happen. But it's not going to happen if that data is difficult to understand. If you're overcomplicating it by trying to layer too much on, or you're trying to access too many different services and cram it in because you think that might make it more easy to understand, it often doesn't. Like I was saying earlier, use that and I'll come on to this in rule number 6. Simplicity is king. And when you've got your data, try and make it simple and easy to understand. And not just to understand for technical people or people who are involved in understanding data, actually decision makers, let's be honest, they're very rarely data scientists. So if you've got an elected official or a senior manager or leader, find ways of making it easy to understand. Use dashboards, use visual graphics, use different tools and techniques to turn that data into something they're going to understand. Because if they don't understand it, they're never going to use it. And it just becomes, oh yeah, well, we've got some data sets in the appendix. That's fine. I'm sure they're all fine. No, we want people to be using this and owning it and being curious about it, because they're the ones making the decisions. And if they're doing it based on incomplete or inaccurate data, then it's going to go awry.
Yeah, and you could almost apply that logic all the way through from, like you said, policymakers through the data science teams, but also to the people delivering on the front line as well? Do they understand the impact of what they're doing? Do they understand what the numbers mean in terms of outcomes and real impact? And if everybody's kind of bought into that, if everybody sees the value in the data and the numbers, and as you say, the information and the insights contained, then, when people are capturing data at the point of delivery, they're going to do a better job of it, because they know that it's going to feed all the way back to actually create a better service design.
There's something wonderful about, as a member of staff, knowing which of those needles you're helping to tick up, which bits of your work you're contributing to. So that kind of golden thread of even the most kind of entry level person and the organizational goals, and the kind of that golden thread up, this is what we should be doing as an organization. Every person in that chain should know, I'm doing this, and this is how it's measured. And look how I'm making a difference, and look at the numbers that I'm helping to increase, just even in a small way or a big way, whatever it is, it just makes you feel part of something much bigger than that. And councils are delivering up to 600 different functions. It's important for everyone to know that they're part of something bigger, and not just turning up, doing a tiny little thing and then going home afterwards.
Yeah, and you can sort of see a way in which, the people with data in their job title and digital in their job title, increasingly they're going to have to be reaching out into the whole organization. It's not just going to be, well, you do your coding or you crunch your numbers. You need to be an advocate for what data can do and evangelize it with everybody in the organization, so that, you realize that when you're getting someone to complete a field on a form, them completing it properly has a knockback effect all the way back up the line to where we're capturing the data, where we're processing it. And I think that cultural piece of them being ambassadors for the power of data is only going to grow, I guess.
Yeah, I remember back to my kids' school. I think there was a survey or a form that was filled out, and it wasn't until all the parents were told, if you fill this in, this means we get more money so we can do more things. If you don't fill it in, we don't get in trouble. But actually, we're not going to be able to provide these after-school clubs. We're not going to be able to do this. And it was just knowing that their actions actually were contributing to something good. It wasn't a punishment or anything. It was, I can help do a good thing by just giving a bit more data. And that really, really helps. And so if everyone knows that they can contribute to that and build up this picture of people and services, I can't understand why someone would not want to be doing that.
Yeah, it reminds me, our GM for government, David Wild, who used to be CIO of Essex County Council, I remember he told me they were doing a sort of data audit, and they'd managed to find ways to spell Southend about 8 different ways, like and that's that's fault at source, right? And if that's your approach to data and collection and processing, then you're gonna have problems. So it is kind of everybody's business to varying degrees, that we're all part of that solution, and fixing things at source, as opposed to the poor soul who's doing the data cleanse having to fix all these kind of issues. So yeah,
the quickest way of doing something is to do it right the first time.
Yeah, there we go, in a nutshell. So right, let's get to the next one. Number 6, what have you got?
Number 6, Marie Kondo your data. For those who haven't actually looked into it, Marie Kondo, she did this whole thing about decluttering. Pick up an item, hold it in your hand. Does it bring you joy? If it does, keep it. If it doesn't, get rid of it. I'm useless at this. I've got shelves full of rubbish and so on, but I feel like I get a lot of joy out of those. And so with this approach, it's not saying get rid of all data except for the absolute bare minimum. It's thinking with your data, what part is it playing? Is it up to date? Is it current? Is it actually being used? Is it useful? And if it's not, probably don't need it. And as I was saying earlier about keeping it simple, the more simple and streamlined data is, the easier it is to understand and the quicker you're going to get some value out of it. So with data, it is really about looking at what's up to date, what's useful, either now or it's going to be used in the future. Keep hold of that. Everything else probably don't need, and be really quite ruthless about it, because it will, the less you have to consider and think about, the easier it's going to be to make progress. Yeah,
I can see why people are a bit squeamish or nervous about it, because there's a mindset that also says, well, you don't know what's coming over the horizon, and you might think, oh, I wish I'd been collecting the data on how many kids are eating school packed lunches for the last 10 years, because now we can use that to inform school meals or whatever. And you've got to apply an intelligent kind of scrutiny, but also be a little bit brave and sort of say, okay, we're really clutching at straws if we think that's the number of.
And just think, every bit of data that you're then not collecting. So it might actually, that seems like there could be some value of that down the line. So that's fine. But if you're saying how many kids are eating packed lunches out of red lunch boxes, who gives a damn? And every bit of time and effort you're doing collecting and collating and checking and cleaning and combining that data is time you then can't spend on something much more useful. So it's just about being, like you're saying, being harsh, being brave, and get rid of the stuff that actually really isn't going to add any understanding or any richness. And also trusting the fact that if you need it in future, odds are you probably won't need 5, 10, 15, 20 years worth of that. It's about an understanding and a snapshot of what's going on at that moment. So be smart about what you're doing in that.
Apply the critical factors, and and I guess don't leave it to one person, because you need a bit of perspective around this. So collaborate on this and really kind of get the brains trust together and really think, well, could we use this in the future?
Make a case for it. There's nothing better than actually doing a bit of a trial, a bit of a challenge session, and make the case. Why do we need to keep collecting this? And have someone whose sole job is to oppose that, whose sole job is to question it and challenge it. And at the end of it, you might actually, we do need that data. We're able. Challenge is brilliant because it allows you to either solidify your understanding and your beliefs, or change them. And I think we're too scared in public sector of looking like we didn't know what we're doing and being wrong and saying, oh yeah, no, we made a mistake. This blame culture that unfortunately it's endemic in most organizations means that we want to defend it because we said it was right at some point and we don't want to be able to change. We need to make much more of an agile mindset of, at the time, it was the right decision. We've learned more since then. And now we know that actually we're going to change it and do it differently. Yeah. And no recriminations about, oh yeah, I told you so. It has to just be a mature way of doing things.
Yeah. So Marie Kondo says no more red lunch boxes. You heard it. You heard it here first.
There's the headline.
All right. Lucky number 7. What's next on the list?
Penultimate entry on the list. Ask the right questions, otherwise you'll end up with the wrong data. Okay. If you don't know what you're trying to get out of it, then you're never going to find that information. You might stumble across it by luck, but that's rare at best. In every organization, you've got research specialists, consultation specialists, engagement specialists who are able to take what are the outcomes we need to achieve and then work a way of getting that data, getting that engagement, that buy-in, and understand it. If you're not doing that and you're asking just about everything or asking it in difficult ways, like you're saying about Southend, if you don't ask, how are we going to spell Southend, then you're never going to get that. It will just be so many different streams. Or if you phrase things in a very open way, and actually you want a bit of closed data, or vice versa. Know what the outcomes are. Start with the outcomes you want to achieve, and then work out what data sets you need, what data already exists, and then what questions can be asked to fill in those gaps, and be really clear and explicit about what you're asking. Otherwise, you generate random rubbish.
Yeah, and I guess that same mindset and that same level of scrutiny is helpful for point 6, right? Which is, what's the end goal? What's the point? What you collect and what you keep are kind of the two sides of the same coin, aren't they? Like, if you get better at deciding what you need to collect, then you make your life about what to keep easier, because you don't collect the rubbish in the first place. Eventually you get better at it. Absolutely.
It means you can actually look at it and say, did we wanted this bit of data, the questions we ask have not given us the clarity on that, so let's redo it. Let's get a new data set that actually does do that, and we'll ask it in this way because we know we're going to get that, not those answers, but answers to that question. I think there's a slight distinction there, but yeah, think about what you need to achieve and then track back from there.
Yeah, good sense. Right, last up, number 8.
Number 8, seriously, have a purpose to your data. It's rule number 1 and the start and the end of things. Know what you want to do and then do it. Don't just do random things hoping that things will come along or that you might stumble across a solution. Have a point to what you're doing. Be purpose-driven with your decision-making and your data collection and use. Otherwise, you're just going to be throwing bits of data here, there, and everywhere, not useful, not used, and it undermines those cases where actually you do have a good story to tell, and you do have good data that can be used by senior leaders to make decisions. So have a point to it, make that point happen, and be really clear about what you're aiming to achieve. and how you're going to track that as well. So yeah, first and starts and finishes with having a purpose to what you're doing.
All right. Well, in our chart rundown, we'll give it. It's definitely number one spot, and then the remix is at number 8. So we're in good shape. Well, that's great. I think we've laid down the law in terms of some of these things. I think most organisations probably get it, but can't necessarily get out of their own way sometimes in terms of enacting some of these. So it's really good to reiterate. These are simple concepts to get your head around. They're not like technical things. They're about logic, common sense, good practice, aligning culture with process. It's not horrible rocket science.
Critical mass for making this all work isn't huge. You don't need to start by saying we're going to build a data lake and we're going to do all this and we're going to invest. Actually, start off with a few data puddles. Make sure that they're done properly and they link up together. Stick a few puddles together, becomes a pond. Stick it enough of those together, and you start building this lake. But you're doing so iteratively, showing value along the way and proving that this concept works. If you can start off with something major, great. It's much easier to just start with the small things, get them right, and prove the concept works, and show that it can be replicated with different data sets and different teams and different services. And the outcomes will speak for themselves if you do it properly. So start small and just iterate from there.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, as I said up top, we've got we're going to drill into this in even more detail at the Local Gov Transformation Show. And you're going to be joining some colleagues from Camden, from the Welsh Local Government Association, Oxfordshire County Council, some of the kind of innovation team there. So looking forward to that one. For you, what are you looking forward to getting out of that in terms of those conversations, hearing what other people are doing?
Well, it's the variety of organisations involved in there. I'm really looking forward to reinforcing the fact that an approach that works in a district authority, actually the same sort of principles and standards, will be able to drive things in a unitary. We'll be able to drive things in a principality. Getting the basics right and making sure that everyone's working in the same sort of ways actually really reinforces that. And I'm excited to hear these stories and the challenges, because there's going to be different challenges and different flavors of approach and so on. But these people that are going to be part of that panel were doing really exciting things and really pushing things forward. And it is, again, the outcomes that they're trying to achieve rather than just the processes they're going through to get there. That inspires me, the way they're using data to do good things. And I've got a couple of examples that I'm going to share at the session about how just small little bits of using data, not just has made an organization better, but actually has fundamentally improved and possibly even saved lives already, just in the first try of us doing it. So really excited to be able to share some of those stories.
Great stuff. Well, we can't wait to have you join us. It's going to be a good session. Like you said, great panel, great lineup, lots of different types of organizations there, all doing good work. But yeah, that spirit of collaboration, let's share what works, let's share what doesn't work, let's share how we fix these things. That's the way we're all going to move forward together in terms of the public sector. So can't wait. In the meantime, Glenn, we've covered a lot of ground. We've given people their 8 golden rules. Mental note to everybody at home, tick them off. How are you doing on these? Are you walking the walk as well or not? And if not, why not? And how can you change it next week? So really enjoy getting you back on the show, Glenn, sharing all that practical insight. Thanks for joining us again.
Absolute pleasure. Looking forward to my hat-trick appearance.
Yeah, we'll find something special to talk about then. So there we have it. Thank you, Glenn, for the conversation today and for sharing your 8 golden rules of data-driven government services. Loads of potential in this space, but if you don't get those fundamentals right, you're building on a bed of sand and things are going to go downhill pretty quickly. So good to understand what those fundamentals are. If your own organization is not fulfilling them all, probably a chance to look around and see what you can do to make things better. As we said, Glenn's joining us at the Local Gov Transformation Show next month, when he'll be exploring those in more detail on the panel session, Data-Driven Services. As well as Glenn, we have Sam Hall, who's the Chief Digital Officer at the Welsh Local Government Association. We also have Llewellyn Morgan, who is the Head of Innovation at Oxfordshire County Council. And we have Sudip Trivedi, who is the Head of Data and Analytics at the London Borough of Camden. Fantastic lineup of speakers representing all different tiers of local government in the UK. So really looking forward to that session. You can join them for that conversation by signing up for free. All you have to do is head over to the link in the show notes that I'll attach to this episode. And that panel session is happening live on the 16th of November at 4:30 p.m. Going to be a great session, so don't miss out. Just head along to that link and sign up. That's about it for this episode, but I'll be along soon with another conversation with a public sector changemaker. But until then, goodbye.